let's take a look at this second game. The rules I want to point out, I've got a circle around M and L, and that to me is visual indication that they're on the same team. They are in the same room. If it was just M before L, I would have removed that circle and then they could be in different rooms. That's what I did. For the second rule, X and Y are not before Z. You know that you're not just saying that means that Z is before X and Y, right? Because they could be at the same time. So I went with this symbolization. You know, you could do what you want there. And the last one, I just want to make sure that's clear. If gold room contains L, then the rose room contains both X and Z. So, if the rose room doesn't contain either one of those guys, if either one of those guys is in the gold room, then the rose room has to have L. I'm saying gold and rose. Is that is right. I nailed that shit. All right, let's answer these questions. Question 8, list of the order of the speeches, and for these answer choices, just plain break the rules. Answer choice B breaks your second rule. You can't have X or Y before Z. Answer choices D and E both break the first rule. M has to be before L, and they have to be in the same room. Get rid of that. Answer choice C breaks your third rule. If you've got gold room containing L, or let's say it the more normal human way, if long is in the gold room, then both X and Z have to be in the rose room. And answer choice C, that's not the case, so you get rid of it. That leaves us with only answer choice A. That's question 8. For question 9, a pair of speeches that cannot be given at the same time. Why can we not have B, both L and Z, at the same time? Let's take a look. Put L and Z at the same time. It doesn't matter which room we put them in. I'll put them in these rooms. M has to be before L. So now, here's the question. X and Y, neither one of them can be before Z, and those are the only two left. Who's going to go right here? There's nobody that can go right there. L and Z can't be at the same time. That won't work, and that's why that's the right answer. I'm going to get rid of that noise, and we'll pick it back up with question 10. If X is at 3 o'clock, what cannot be true? Well, X is at 3 o'clock. There's two ways that X can be at 3 o'clock. The only one at 3 o'clock, and he's either in the gold room or in the rose room. If he's in the rose room, or sorry, if he's in the gold room, then L is in the rose room. So we've got M and L. And Y cannot be before Z, so it'll have to be Z before Y. If he's in the rose room, that doesn't tell us anything about L, but we do know that M and L are in the same room, and Y and Z, with Z first, are in the same room, and I'm boxing them so I can see more clearly that they can switch rooms. It might be M and Y in the gold, M and L in the gold, the way it looks there, or it might be Z and Y in the gold. All right, what cannot be true? A. Yeah, Long is not in the same room as Yoshida. Long is with M, either way. Question 11. I thought this was awesome. I mean, it was almost too easy. Let's talk about this. The gold room in order. Answer choice A, L is before M. Get rid of that. Answer choice B, where is L? Answer choice D, Y is before Z. Come on, man. And answer choice E, if Zimmerman is in the gold room, Long is not. Get rid of E. That leaves us with only answer choice C. And sure, why not? Question 12. If Y is at 1 o'clock, what could be true? Two ways that Y could be at 1 o'clock. Y could be in the gold room, or Y could be in the rose room. Either way, Y is not before Z, so Z is also at 1 o'clock. Now, if Z is in the gold room, L is in the rose room. So we've got M and L, and that's our 3 o'clock speaker, which means X is here. If, on the other hand, Z is in the rose room, that doesn't tell us anything about L, so we got the same sort of thing we had up here. M and L are going to be on the same team in the same room, and X is going to be at 2 o'clock followed by Nobody. And once again, I'm boxing them so that I can see that they can trade places. We might have M and L in the gold room, or they might be in the rose room. All right. What could be true? Look at answer choice C. Melina at 2 o'clock in the gold room. Sure. Why not? That leaves us with only question 13. Let's talk about how to deal with question 13. And I'm going to give you exactly the way that I handle these substitution questions. It starts here. What is a substitute? A substitute for our purposes is a new rule that means exactly the same as our old rule. That means that every time the old rule is true, and it doesn't matter at this point, right now, at this moment, it doesn't matter what old rule I'm substituting for. The same principle will apply. It doesn't matter what they're asking me to substitute for. They're asking me to find a new rule that means the same thing as one of my old rules. Well, if it means exactly the same thing as one of my old rules, then it has to be true every single time my old rule was true. So, my old rules were all true, here and here and here and here. My new rule then also must be true, here and here and here and here. If it's not true in every place, then it's not the same as my old rule. Start there. Answer choice A, long speech must be at 3 p.m. Poppycock. Hogwash. Long speech just doesn't have to be at 3 o'clock. This is not the same as our old rules. If that were a substitute, that means we would have broken that rule in our first question. Nonsense. Can't be a substitute, so get rid of it. Answer choice B, Melina cannot be earlier than Zimmerman. Well, you know what? I've never had Melina earlier than Zimmerman. That has always been true. Perhaps this is a substitute. I'll hold on to it. C, either X or Y is after Zimmerman. Yeah, that's been true in every instance. At least one of those guys is after Zimmerman. I'll hold on to that. Maybe that's a substitute. D, either X or Y is at 2 o'clock. Well, so far that has also always been true. One of those two at least has been at 2 o'clock. Maybe that's our substitute. Answer choice E, Zimmerman is at 1 o'clock. Well, you know what? In every single instance so far, Zimmerman has been at 1 o'clock. Perhaps that's a substitute. So that was my first prong of my two-pronged plan of attack. For the next prong, it's the same thing but in reverse. If they are substitutes, if the right answer choice here is a substitute for an old rule, then it means the same thing as the old rule, which meant first that it had to be true every time the old rule was true. Next, it has to be false every time the old rule is false. So here's how I'm going to test out that second part. I'm going to make these new rules true while making the old rule false. And if I can do that, if I can make a new rule true while falsifying the old rule, then the new rule is not the same as the old rule. If they're the same, they're the same. They can't be one of them false and one of them true. All right. So answer choice B, Melina's speech cannot be earlier than Zimmerman's. Okay, let's make that true. Melina is not earlier than Zimmerman. And now let's make this old rule false. Oops, I don't want to do it that way because X, if L is in our gold room, X is also in the rose room. So I want to follow my other rules. Okay, so now I followed my first rule. M and L are on the same team. I followed my third rule. If L is in the gold room, Z and X are in the rose room. I have followed the new rule. Answer choice B, Melina is not earlier than Zimmerman. And yet I have broken the old rule that I was substituting for. In this answer, B is true, old rule is false, B is not the same as the old rule. Get rid of it. Answer choice C, either X or Y is after Zimmerman. All right, let's make that happen. M, L, Y. Here we have an instance in which I followed my first old rule, M and L, followed my third old rule, L is gold, X and Z are rose. I have followed answer choice C, either X or Y is after Zimmerman, and yet I have broken the rule I was substituting for. answer choice C is true and the old rule is false. They're not the same. Get rid of it. Answer choice D, either X or Y or both is at 2 o'clock. All right, let's do that. Let's make X at 2 o'clock and we'll put Y here, Z here, M before L. M and L are together on the same team. X, or rather Z is in the gold room, so L is in the rose room. I have also now followed the rule in answer choice D. X or Y is at 2 o'clock. And yet I have broken this old rule. If I can follow the rule in answer choice D and yet break the old rule, then they are not the same. Get rid of it. That leaves us with only answer choice E, which now must be our substitute. And watch this. If I follow the rule in answer choice E, Zimmerman's speech must be at 1 o'clock, it doesn't matter where I put it, top or bottom, I now have to also follow that rule. Answer choice E and that old rule are the same. E is a substitute, and that's why it's the right answer, and that finishes off this game. Alright, in that video I showed you why all the right answers were the right answers in that game. But I didn't really show you how to arrive at those answers. I didn't give you a system for dealing with the questions. I didn't give you a method for arriving at a diagram and working through a game on your own. And that's because I think that's worth paying for. If you agree with me, check out this link and you can see a list of all our current course offerings and their prices, and they're pretty reasonable, I think. And if you don't want to pay for that, that's totally cool. Just keep making the best use you can out of all these free videos, and please tell all your friends and family, neighbors and acquaintances and people you meet on the street how awesome we are. Of course, I mean, if you thought that was awesome, you really should see what's in the paid course.